In this video, we're going to finish up the a robot with the gripper on it by creating a servo mount and a thumb, and we'll check out a few more techniques and be done with this guy. I think we're going to put another plate up here that's going to hold a servo, and that servo is going to be sort of overhang this a little bit with a little thumb that goes down. And I'm going to do a new sketch. So this sketch is going to be on the top of this guy. Okay. And I expect that we're going to have some sort of this. This is just sort of a conceptual drawing now. I'd like some sort of thumb or something that's going to reach down in this hole. And so I'd like it to be, say, how about we make it 6 millimeters thick and 20 millimeters wide, tall, I guess. Okay. So I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to move this thing around a little bit. I guess I'd like it to be sort of in the center here. That makes sense to me. All right. So what that means is I would like symmetry from across this. Okay, so that's symmetric. I don't know exactly where it's going to be here. And I don't know if this dimension is actually right, but I think I know it wants to be there. So I think what I would like to do is I would like to have a servo motor sort of out here in this area. So I'm going to draw just in construction terms, so there'll be some sort of servo motor sort of hanging out over there. All right. And I should be able to move this around a little bit, I think. Can I move this? There we go. So there'll be some sort of servo motor block thing. My guess is that it'll probably come all the way out to here-ish. I don't know that for sure, but that seems about right. Okay. Well, I'm going to save this real quick. I'm going to rename this to be the servo guide. So here I've switched back to the robot, the full assembly. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an additional sketch right here. We're going to do an insert from our current document. Under gripper parts, open up sketches, insert servo guide. And as before, I am going to fasten this drawing, and I'm going to fasten it to this corner, just like we did before. Okay. And you can see that it's on the correct plane and it looks like it's in good orientation. Okay, so now what we have is we have some more geometry that we can use because we're going to insert another servo motor. Insert other documents, and we're going to go to our library. Under assemblies, you will find this servo with 032 hub, and we're going to pop that servo right over here. I know that I would like this servo to actually live up here. And if possible, I would like the bulk of it to be on the back side. So we're going to do a planar mate. There's a planar mate between that flat and this flat. And we'll take a look, flip it to put it on top there, hit solve. Okay, so now what I'd like to do is I would actually like to have the motor sort of rotated. And the reality is, what I want is I would like a planar or actually a parallel mate would do it. Let's get a parallel mate involved here. That's this one. Okay, let's do a parallel mate between this face and let's go with the edge of this. Okay, and if I do a solve on it, yeah, that's kind of getting closer to what I wanted. I wanted this to stay parallel there. Okay. Now what I'd like is I would like to actually have this face touch that line right there. So let's put a tangent mate. A tangent means touching. And between that face and this line. Okay, now, hey, this is looking pretty good. So that's kind of what I had in mind. And I guess I was kind of thinking about moving this maybe right about there. Okay. I think that is where I would like to put this part. So I guess I sort of I tried to pick the, to line the center of this up, and I could get in there and come up with another relationship here. But, honestly, this is going to be temporary. We're just placing this part so we can do a drawing. I think I like that. Okay. Hey, you know what else I know? I might as well make accommodations here on that original planer mate, because there's going to be a plate in between this motor and this plate over here. So I can go find this planer mate and I can edit it, and I can say, hey, I'm going to offset this, say, how about 4 millimeters? Did it go up? No, it went down. I swear, it it never fails. I always put in the wrong sign on that. Okay, so see, I've left a space for a 4 millimeter plate under there. I think that'll work. So I'm gonna hit the OK button again. All right, so now I need to reposition this. I'm gonna put it right about there. That should work. Now I would like to go back to gripper parts. I'm going to turn on context, and I'm actually going to update the context, and we should end up seeing that new servo motor there. There it is. It's sort of, it's drawn in there in context. It's in the position that I want, and now I can draw around this thing. So I need to draw a little plate in here to hold this motor, and then it's going to have, it'll be in 3 dimensions. So I also need to make sure it's going to have screw holes and such. All right, let's get to it. New drawing, new sketch, and might as well do it right on top of this plate. That's what it's going to mount to. I'm going to do some construction geometry. So I'm just going to do this whole plate up here. That'll give me the outline anyway. Actually, I think I'm going to do, I guess I have no reason not to project this line as well. So that gives me sort of a boundary for it. Hey, I'm going to need that line, which is the edge of the servo, and I'm going to need that line, which is the inside edge of the flange of the servo, and I'm going to need that also projected. So there's sort of the servo outline, if you will. Okay, that looks reasonable. So we'll hang on to that for a sec. I'm going to need to have a rectangle that sort of supports this whole thing. I might as well come all the way out. Well, let's see. We'll start up here and we'll figure out where it goes from there out to here somewhere. In fact, actually, I can come all the way down to here and make it line up in 2 directions. That looks reasonable. Okay, so there's the start. And I think I'm going to make it L-shaped. So I'm going to add another rectangle this direction. And yeah, we'll put it here for now. We'll figure out what the dimensions are in just a sec. So I'll hit escape on that. All right, so that is sort of where we're headed. I think what I'd like to do is define this dimension. So let's do that. Dimension from here to here. Let's make it 48 because that's one of our magic numbers in Go Build World. All right, so I have this L shape here. That seems reasonable. I need to trim out some stuff. I don't actually want this line here. That'll prevent it from being a full shape. In fact, actually, I'm going to get rid of that one too. Well, let's extrude it. So I'm going to extrude this part. Whoop, I don't want the whole thing. I just want the faces of sketch 2. So there's that angled piece right there. We decided it was going to be 4 millimeters, if you'll remember. Okay, and I'll hit OK. So now we've got the start of that base plate. Okay. Oh, turns out I added it to this plate, which isn't what I wanted. So I'm going to go back to extrude. See how I did an add? I didn't want to do an add. I'm going to do a new part. So we're going to get a brand new part out of the deal. And I'm going to leave it that color for now. It'll just be easier to find it. Okay, back to our original sketch. And I am going to project in construction lines that center line. And that makes sense. actually, I guess what I really want is kind of this center line too, don't I? Yeah, okay, well, we'll figure that out. And I want this line, that's the, let's do a circle down here. That's going to be 4.1. I guess I would like to mirror across, I think it's going to be this line. Oh, nope, that isn't what I wanted. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. I guess I want to mirror across this line. That thing. Yeah, that works. So screw hole here, screw hole here. And hey, I think I would also like to mirror across this line, that and that. So now I've got 4 screw holes. And oh, I forgot to add a dimension, but I can add that now. I'd actually like from here to here to be 5 millimeters. And I would like from here to here to be 5 millimeters. That gives me room for countersinking some holes. To hit this and to extrude, now I've got those mounting holes there. In 3 dimensions, what I'd really like to have now is, see how there's these mounting tabs on the motor, on the servo motor? So I need to have some material here that goes up on both sides in order for us to be able to screw in from this side. So we need a new sketch, okay? So we're gonna sketch on top of this. I now need to project some construction geometry, specifically this and this. So those are construction lines. Let's project that face again. All right, so now I would like to have a rectangle, and I would like it to be no construction lines. We're going to come over here, say 10 millimeters sounds good. And I'm leaving that in a weird spot. That's okay. Gonna do the same thing down here. And I'm not touching this line because I want an offset from that, but they'll both be about 10 millimeters. And then I'm gonna put a dimension. I want to have at least 1 millimeter of clearance there. And same thing up here at the top. That way we don't get too frisky in trying to make things perfect because we're 3D printing, okay? But that'll still leave plenty of room, I believe, for a screw. And if not, we may need to reduce that. In fact, actually, I'm going to reduce it now. We're going to make that 0.5 millimeters. Okay, I think that was too close. So we're going to go with 0.5. All right. Now we're going to extrude that square and that square. Now, how tall do they need to be? Well, it really only needs to go up as tall as the servo motor. So I can use, again, we're in context here, so I can go up to face, and I can select this as the face, right? I can use the context as the face. Some reference geometry there, and that's what we wanted. All right. Hey, so now we need to put some holes in for the mounting screws. That's pretty straightforward, except for there's all this stuff in my way. I want to work on that thing, but this is in my way. So remember, I can turn off. By going to hide show context instances, I can go to the robot base, and I think this is probably side rail 1. It was, okay. So see how I removed side rail 1 temporarily? Cool, because I'm gonna need to work on a few parts in here, so that's good. So let's do that. Do a new sketch on this vertical face here. Okay, so we're going to do a project of construction geometry, and we're going to use the inside of these radiuses just to get those center points. Okay. That, like that. All right, turn that off. Now I want some circle action. And we want this to be, well, we want to be able to thread, we're threading the screws in there. So we're gonna use 3.5 millimeters. That's the size of a tapped hole. And we're gonna make all of these the same. Now I'm gonna oversize these a little bit, kind of like that. And I draw another one over here. We'll draw another one over here. Now I'm going to use the equal constraint, and I would like this hole to be equal to this hole. And I'd like that one to be equal to that one, and this one to be equal to that one. Now they're all controlled by this one dimension. Extrude, we can do a remove, and this time we're going to go up to next, and that'll get us back to the back side of that part there. All right. We need a countersink hole, and I just realized that this hole is going to be interfered with by this. Okay, that's a problem. We're going to go back and edit sketch, what was it? Sketch 3? Sketch 2. We're going to edit sketch 2. These holes are not in a good place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that hole and that hole. I guess what I'd like to know is, I guess this center point, this center line here doesn't actually do me any good. What I really want is a center line based on the distance between here and here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this line as well. I'm going to draw myself a new construction line. Okay. And I'm going to find the midpoint of this. There it is. And go over here horizontally. Where is it? I guess I'm going to go over here horizontally to there. Okay. And now I'm going to do another midpoint line, and it's going to be the midpoint of this guy here. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm changing the line that I used as the mirror. So I need to delete this as well. So I'm going to redo our mirror operation by selecting this center line, and I'm going to mirror this guy over here. Okay. And now I'm going to use this as the mirror line and mirror these two. Okay. So hopefully, see how I moved those over, and now there's room over here for countersink holes. You know, I think I'd like to put the countersink holes in, and I can actually do that by backing up a little ways. I'm going to back up to extrude number 2 here. So see this rollback bar? I'm going to back that up a little bit, and that got rid of all of that top geometry. And I'm going to put in a new sketch with countersink holes, and we've done these before. And so I'm going to project out of sketch 2. Sketch 2 is on there. All right. Our center line construction lines. There we go. All right. So now we'll draw a countersink hole, which, if you'll recall, 8 millimeters is a good size for us. Do another mirror operation across that. Do another mirror operation across this. Cool. And then we're going to extrude, remove, and 2.3 millimeters. Okay. And that's what we wanted. So now we've got our countersink holes. So now I can go back over here and I can roll this back down, and you can see all of those holes are now out of the way and accessible. All right. Last thing I think I'd like to do, I think I'd like to put some fillets on here, a 3 millimeter fillet right here. And let's do one over here. And let's do one over here. Okay. And you can see that by doing these countersink holes first, the fillet knew how to avoid them. So it's built right into the 3D print. And this little fillet gives this a little bit more rigidity. It's less likely to snap off. We don't want to put them on the inside here because the motor has to sit in there. So sketch 2 here, I'm going to change sketch 2. I'm going to rename it to be the servo holder base. And then I'm going to Control A, select all, Control C, okay? And so I've copied that. And if I go to when I go to rename extrude 2, I can just paste that same thing in there. Sketch 5 is going to be sketch 5, rename that countersink holes. Control A, Control C, rename this. I just took a sec to run through and I renamed all of my drawings into something legible. It's all part of the servo mount here. Okay. Cool. Last thing that we're going to do is we're going to put in a thumb on this wheel here. That's going to be 6 millimeters thick. Remember, we sort of planned on that being 6 millimeters wide and some unknown length and some unknown depth. And so we're going to kind of do that a little bit by feel. So I'm going to start a new drawing on the face of the servo horn there. Okay. And I am going to project the outside ring of the servo horn. And I'm also going to from there, we're going to do a drawing, and I would like to project as a construction the bottom of the ring, which is down there on the ground. And I guess what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to, so it started out with this round thing, and now we're going to have vertical with the center intersecting with the ring. I'm going to come straight down, and I don't want it to hit the bottom. So we're going to be, say, 2 millimeters off the bottom. That seems reasonable. And we're going to come over here. Oh, I'm going to guess 10 millimeters ought to work, something like that. So I'm going to put in 10 here, and it will intersect with that up there. All right. Cool. Now, I'd like, I guess, the distance from here to the ground to be about 2 millimeters. Come up here and trim that. Trim that. That's the part we should get. So if I hit the check mark and we go to extrude this, I should get that, and I want that. So that got me all the screw holes and things. And the thickness of this is going to be 6 millimeters. And so the thought is that that is how I came up with the shape, the basic shape of this thumb thing. And I got aligning screw holes and everything. All right. Those are all the parts. So I'm going to go ahead and come down here and rename these parts. I'm going to rename this one to be the gripper servo mount. Okay. And part 4 is going to be the gripper servo thumb. Okay, and just real quick, we're going to rename this sketch to be gripper servo thumb. Keep that, and we'll also get that extrusion. One of the things that we still need to do is we need to go in and add to the servo arm some holes, these holes here, okay? And so here we go. We're going to do a sketch, and ideally I'd like to do a sketch right here on top of this plate, okay? Just real quick, we're going to do a little bit of projecting. We'd like to use our midlines again, and we'd like to use the center points of these holes just to make sure that they're there, okay? And then I'm going to draw a circle here, which is a 3.5. That's for a threaded hole. We've done this before, okay? And then the usual, we're going to do a mirror across there and a mirror across here. Okay, so there's our holes. So we got those. We're good. Now, when I go to extrude this thing, I'm going to do an extrude. I'm going to do a remove. And so I can select the sketches. So there are the sketches. So that's cool. And we're just going to do up to next. Okay. And so that is going to add holes to the gripper servo arm that need to be threaded. So it turns out all 8 of these holes in this part need to be threaded. So we'll hit a green check mark on there. And now we're actually ready to go. So we have all of the parts made. We have all of the holes made. You've seen me do it before. I just ran in and did an assignment, rename assigned material and appearance on everything. So everything should be in good shape. We're now going to go back to our assembly. Notice that none of those parts exist here yet. That's okay. We're going to run over to arm assembly. We're going to go down here to gripper because that's where our gripper exists. And we're going to insert these new parts. We need to insert from, we actually need the real servo motor we're going to use. So I'm going to go to assemblies and I'm going to insert one of these. Okay. This is the one we're actually going to use. From our current document, we would like to go to Part Studios, and we're going to go to gripper parts. And we would like to have one servo mount, one servo thumb. Okay. And then it's just a matter of assembling these. We're going to fasten mate this to this, fasten mate this to this, and then we're also going to fasten mate the servo up into here. So let's get started with that. In fact, here we'll just go do it right now. I'm going to take that hole, fasten mate it to this hole. Okay. I'm going to take this hole will get fastened to this hole. Solve that and have a look. You need to rotate a secondary axis or two. Try that. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay. And then we're going to do a fasten mate between this and this. Looks good. Okay. Just for now, I'm going to right click and fix this part so I can, because we have parts that can move now. So this is now movable. Now we need to do some screw inserts. Well, let's see. Let's do an insert. And again, you know how to do this. Go insert stuff. You probably want to measure the distance from here down to that bottom plate is 6.5 millimeters. So 6 millimeter screws here is our best bet. And from this face out to the end of this face are 9 millimeters. So reality is I think I would go with the 8 millimeter screw there. That should be plenty. Well, actually it may not be. Let's go with 10 millimeters. All right. So 4 10s, 4 6s. Now I'm going to need 4 10s for the motor itself. Okay, just a brief inspection. We have all of the screws are in. We have screws for the motor. We have screws into the base plate. We have screws from up underneath. This is a completed gripper assembly. I'm going to hide all of my mate connectors. Okay, now if I go to my arm assembly, we're going to run over here, take a look at the arm assembly. This should also have all of those parts in them. Again, need to hide the mate connectors. So I can have a look over here. You can see the that's all in place. Things are looking good. All right. Now if I go back to my robot assembly, click on the robot. Right, we have what we needed. Now, just one quick heads up. There is an extra servo up here. That's this one. This was temporary, so we can actually remove this, delete it. Okay, and it looks like it removed from here because it was just, there was an extra one sitting there. So it's now gone. The actual servo is in the ARM assembly file. Okay, hide all my mate connectors. So there we go. So we now have an operational gripper. Okay. Hey, looking good. There it is. You know what we can do? We could remove the armed across member tangent mate there. Okay. So now if I look at this from the right, I should be able to drag this up. And hey, look at that. We ended up taking the gripper with it. And if I turn off the leveling, if I remove, I can either remove or I can just disable it. Turns out you can suppress that mate. And now this thing should be able to rotate. Yeah. So now I can rotate that gripper. All right. And if I spin this around and come in here, I should be able to move this part of the gripper. So this is all now functioning and moving, and it's all attached. All right. Last thing I'll point out is that if you would like to get rid of the scaffold drawings, I wouldn't necessarily delete them, but you definitely can come over here and turn them off so that you don't see them anymore. All right. So there is a completed gripper doing in context editing. Okay. And it all moves. Wow, that was kind of a long project. But here you go. This we have a robot very similar to this on one of my teams. It actually works. They made a gripper that actually can do 2 pixels. So that's an exercise left for the reader. I hope you realize how awesome this is, that you can do all this stuff in context. You can use all this temporary scaffolding, and by placing things like pixels and game pieces in places where you want them, you can actually draw your robot around the game parts. So, all right. We'll see you on the next video.